Alrighty guys, well you asked for it, you get it here on the channel. This is your host ID Jester. We're back at it again. Another live unboxing, this time Heroes of the Pacific, of course, Lock and Load Tactical Series. Lock and Load Publishing. Let's find out what this is all about, shall we? That's right, on December 7th, 1941, Japanese explosive attack on Pearl Harbor brought World War II to the United States and the entire Pacific theater. Heroes of the Pacific details Americans brawl with Japan in frantic firefights from the audacious island hopping campaign. Lead desperate Marines struggling ashore on Tarawa face a counterattack at Hungo tanks at the Palau airfield and fight for Kintona Point on Iwo Jima and more. In Heroes of the Pacific, a complete game in the Lock and Load Tactical Series, the dynamics of the World War II firefight have changed dramatically. The Marines, along with the U.S. Army's finest, go toe-to-toe against the Imperial Japanese Army on terrain from explosive beaches to dense jungles. With the use of caves, tunnels, spider holes, and ninjutsu movement, the Japanese are never to be underestimated. And what you least expect, the sound of Banzai may scream across the battlefield. Feel the thrill and the terror. Again, 5 out of 10 in complexity and 7 out of 10 in solitaire. 12 and above, 1 to 2 players, 2 to 4 hours, depending on the scenario, length, and amount of units. What comes in the box, you might wonder? Well, that's what we're going to show you guys. One thing I will have to remind you is this does not actually come in the box. We'll look at those in a minute. But you do get the core rules and scenarios. You get 2 dice, a red and a white one. Your colors might vary. You get the core rules version 4.1 for the Lock and Load World War II era 1930 to 1959. It's got all your detailed information, although I would recommend you get the more up-to-date 5.1 rules from the Lock and Load website. You're going to get yourself a boatload of maps that will fold out and have all of the terrain features that you know and love with the Lock and Load tactical system. They are geomorphic boards, so you can put them any different directions to build your different scenarios. All kinds of cool looking stuff here. Great quality maps. Good details. More maps. And even the beach landing map. So there's a nice look at all of the different maps. We have some counter sheets as well. And we'll look at those. Let's see what we have here. So we've got the American counter sheet with their vehicles and their weapons and their squads and their leaders. Great counters. Again, punch in, ready to play, pre-rounded corners. Great looking counters. Ready to go on your table. No counter clipping needed. Love it. So you get some Americans. You get some admin counters. Move, fire, assault, banzai charges, bunkers, mines, star shells, caves, airplanes and wrecks, turn initiative. 2-sided as well. Then, of course, we get the Japanese with all of their different squads, machine guns, different squad units, and weapons and vehicles, some events. We also get some nice reference cards, rules reference cards with the Japanese flag in the background, which is cool. So it gives you all the information about how to conduct off-board artillery, ordnance versus armor, armored overrun, cross assault, small arms, star shells, everything that you're going to need to play the game. Special weapons, Japanese forces, American forces. Just keep this handy by the battlefield. You're going to have your skill reference card, which is going to give you all of your special abilities for the units. Quick, Slayer, Suicide Sapper, Warrior Spirit, they are there. A Leader's Leaner, From the Masses, Gung Ho, Poured On, Lucky Man, and Hall of Lead. And they'll give you special abilities that you can use for those units. Then, of course, the most important one, your player aid card with all your terrain modifiers and adjustments, special rules, different counters. And then, of course, your DFT table with your results. The results, what that means from the charts, and your modifiers, and your ordnance fire tables, and your melee tables. So you're going to have a couple charts out with your maps, your scenario book. Let's take a look at that. So this is going to weigh in at it's going to weigh in at looks like about 41 pages. And you're going to have all kinds of really good scenarios. Some with multiple maps. Some with a single map. This is really cool. It actually has the aerial photo, reconnaissance photo maybe, of what's going on. And usually some colored photos, pictures, information about it. Red Beach Red. Some bigger scenarios, some smaller scenarios. There's usually a tutorial scenario in here that usually just has a few units with just some squads and maybe some weapons. And then, of course, the super good introductory to the module with special rules, things to know about, things to keep track of. So for the Pacific, we're talking about like a Japanese mortar and special rules that might be associated with that. Smoke lane capabilities, corpsmen, the Japanese forces, snipers, bonsai attacks, of course, which isn't going to be found in too many other scenarios. But you get the bonsai attacks, you get ninjutsu movement. The Japanese were excellent jungle fighters and adept at ambushing their enemies. Ninjutsu movement replicates this ability without the awkward mechanics of hidden movement. When a scenario states that units enter as per the ninjutsu movement, the Japanese player places them as follows. And you just follow along. The Japanese squad breakdown, the American Marines and their special abilities, rifle squads, how they break down, the LVTs, bombers, caves, how to handle caves, units in caves, tunnel movements, collapse entrances, emplacements, and of course your special scenario information. So tons of scenarios. And then of course we have our sequence of play, rally phase, operation phase, administration phase, spotting rules, fire combat rules, ordnance rules, melee, close combat, assault versus vehicle, overrun, caves, and of course your weapon and ammo and target table. So you can quick reference everything without having to flip the counter back and forth. So if you wanted to find out what this tank, what its fire table looks like. You can just look at this instead of flipping the counter over. So that's cool. Of course, we have our turn track with our casualty boxes, our vehicle size, die roll modifiers, victory points, and our optional speed rules if you're using those. And then, of course, if you're interested, you can buy the 4KX maps, which will enlarge the original maps up to 11 by 17 inches with 4X quality on them. Give you a nice close-up view of them. Beautiful maps. Look at this. Oh, look at that. I want to definitely play a beach landing mission. I have not played a beach landing mission in any of the Lock and Load Tactical. I'm sure they have one for the Normandy. I just haven't played it, but might have to try this scenario out. Nice little village there with some huts. And some more. And of course, these are geomorphic just like the original ones. So you can put them any direction to make your own scenarios. If you say, oh, this would be a really cool scenario if we had tanks that had to come out, you know, a platoon coming in and they needed to take over this objective over here or whatever your kind of scenario you wanted to make. So there you go. Oh, some of them are two-sided as well. Are they all two-sided? No, they're not all two-sided, but some are. In fact, inside the actual booklet, it tells us what maps are there and which side to look at. So, Big Hill there. That must be Mount Suribuchi, I think. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, or 4 levels up there. So, do something like that. Or maybe something like this. All kinds of great combinations that you can meet. Of course, the 4X maps, again, do not come in the base game. You need to order those separately. So just keep that in mind. These do not come in the original game. You do need to order the 4K X maps. I keep calling them 4X maps, but they're 4K X maps separately. But I highly recommend. You can see they don't take up too much room on the table. You can have a couple of them back to back, and they don't take up too much room. You can even put 3 out there, pretty, you know, probably something more like that. You don't probably have a mountain right by the beach, but still. And you can see how just changing one little map changes the actual scenario. So this is all jungle. One little building, that's all there is in that whole area. So random scenarios are a thing. You can actually get a random scenario generator from the Lock and Load website, where you can then create your own random scenarios. It does include the Heroes of the Pacific information, so if you want to create one, so I would highly recommend you check that out as well. Heroes of the Pacific, great game, another great addition to the core Lock and Load Tactical series of games. Check out the Lock and Load Publishing website, and thanks for coming out. Thanks for checking out the video. We'll see you all next time. Take care, guys.